A very good evening. You're watching CNN News 18. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. Let's dive into the segment with some breaking inputs coming in with regards to Arvind Kejriwal's arrest and the remand that had been ordered for enforcement directorate by the trial court yesterday in Delhi. In fact, we are learning that Delhi's CM Arvind Kejriwal has now moved the Delhi High Court challenging his arrest and the order of remand passed by the trial court yesterday. In fact, Arvind Kejriwal's legal team, as we are learning, has also moved the High Court for an urgent hearing tomorrow. They are seeking this urgent hearing on Sunday. And in fact, for more details, let's quickly go across to Ananya Bhatnagar, who's joining me on the phone line. Ananya, take us through what is the legal plea stating of Arvind Kejriwal.
Well, definitely, Arvind Kejriwal has now knocked the doors off, in fact, the Delhi High Court, challenging the particular order of remand and, in fact, his arrest in the Delhi liquor policy scam case. But at the same point of time, we have to understand that the courts are shut until Monday because there is a holiday of the courts with regards to the holy break. But they're trying to make urgent, space for themselves. They're trying to seek urgent hearing. But whether or not that would be allowed is something that we'll have to wait and watch for. But Arvind Kejriwal has alleged that, his arrest is illegal in nature and that the particular remand order was mechanical and has been passed without a specific reason being given. So we'll have to wait and watch as to how things pan out and whether or not any kind of a relief is granted to, the Delhi Chief Minister. But if we go by the precedents in the previous cases, not much of weightage is given by the High Court to such orders, and no kind of an interim stay on a particular arrest is actually given. If you go in the case of Hemant Soren, he was asked to go to the Jharkhand High Court, and in fact even those remand orders that were challenged, the High Court thought that since the trial court had already dealt with it and had gone into detail with the reasoning, there is no infirmity and the arrests are per se legal in nature, and that's the reason why the High Court actually refrains from interfering with such orders of remand, because these are constitutional courts which are dealing with it. And even after the agency arrests him, a person is actually produced before a particular court who actually examines, in fact, the remand papers and, in fact, the case files. And only after that, a particular order for remand is passed. So we'll have to wait and watch as to how things pan out, whether or not Arvind Kejriwal would be able to secure a relief in this particular case, and how, in fact, the most important question, how the politics
continue to stay with us because I'm also joined in by Rupashri Nanda on the phone line. Remember, Rupashri also tracks the Aam Aadmi Party very closely. Rupashri, yesterday we also heard Abhishek Manu Singhvi in fact argue that there's a dichotomy between the need to arrest or the necessity to arrest. And having said that, today also in the plea, there is basically the allegation coming in that the entire arrest has been illegal. Take us through what is that crux of the argument that Team Kejriwal is giving in terms of why this arrest is illegal.
Well, I do not expect any other dramatically different arguments to be made in the High Court. My reading is that Arvind Kejriwal and his legal team do not really expect that the High Court is going to provide them, much of a relief. But what it will do for them is that the way to approach the Supreme Court then becomes clear. Because if they go directly to the Supreme Court, then the Supreme Court would have said that first exhaust your the legal opportunities available to you for remedy in the lower courts and then come to us. Therefore, you see that they are not wasting any time. They have already moved a plea challenging the arrest and the remand, and they have also sought an urgent hearing. Now, it is very likely that perhaps the urgent hearing is not going to be granted. Why? Because when they sought an urgent hearing in midnight of the day of his arrest also, the Supreme Court was not inclined to honor that. And sometimes the kind of decisions that the Supreme Court takes is a cue for the lower courts to act accordingly. But since they have asked for an urgent hearing, the High Court may actually give them a hearing soon, if not on the 24th. Now, after exhausting the remedy or option for remedy available to them in the High Court, then they're going to challenge it in the Supreme Court.
That's a very valid point being made by Rupashri. In fact, Ananya, I'd like to bring you in on this. You just heard what Rupashri had to say, that, an urgent hearing may not happen tomorrow, and how this could be a further possibility clearing or paving the way forward for the Aam Aadmi Party to approach the Supreme Court.
Well, even if this route is clear to approach the Supreme Court, if the matter is already pending before the Delhi High Court, then how can a move be made before the Supreme Court is the first question. And secondly, very importantly, even if they move the Supreme Court too, in the precedence, if we go by the Hemant Soren case, or if we go by the case of Senthil Balaji, had termed those orders of remand to be correct in nature. It had already said that when a constitutional court has dealt with it and has actually seen that the constitutional court, because these are not, when we deal with the PMLA case, these are not normal magistrates. These are in fact special CBI or special PMLA judges who have the power of both sessions in magistrate, and that's the reason why they are more experienced judges who actually deal with these particular petitions. So in most of these cases, Akanksha, the Supreme Court also would not intervene unless and until there is some kind of a grave infirmity in the order that's been passed by the trial judge.
Absolutely. And why this plea is alleging that the entire arrest has been illegal is something that I'd like to also know from you, Ananya. And before we do that, let's also listen in to the political reactions.
मेरे जीवन देश के लिए समर्पित है और चाहे अंदर हो या बाहर। मेरे जीवन देश के लिए समर्पित है और चाहे अंदर हो या बाहर।
आपके बेटे और आपके भाई अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने जेल से आपके लिए संदेश भेजा है। मेरे प्यारे देशवासियों, मुझे कल गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया। मैं अंदर रहूं या बाहर, हर पल देश की सेवा करता रहूँगा। मेरी ज़िंदगी का एक एक पल देश के लिए समर्पित है। मेरे शरीर का एक एक कतरा देश के लिए है। इस पृथ्वी पर मेरा जीवन ही संघर्ष के लिए हुआ है। आज तक बहुत संघर्ष किए, आगे भी मेरी ज़िंदगी में बड़े बड़े संघर्ष लिखे हैं। इसीलिए ये गिरफ्तारी मुझे अचंभित नहीं करती।
चुनाव जो है वो दिनों दिन बहुत कठिन होता जा रहा है बीजेपी के लिए, तो उनको और उनके सभी साथियों को, हेमंत सोरेन जी को और भी नेताओं को इस प्रकार से उनका जो कार्यक्रम चल रहा है तकलीफ देने का, वो चलता रहेगा। आज कोई व्यक्ति सुरक्षित नहीं है देश में। अगर केजरीवाल जी को झूठे मुकदमे में फंसाया है, केजरीवाल जी को जेल में डालकर उनकी पार्टी तोड़ना चाहते हैं, उनकी सरकार गिराना चाहते हैं।
ये चूंकि अब अदालत की कार्रवाई हो गई है, जांच एजेंसियों ने कार्रवाई की है और अदालत में मामला है, मैं समझता हूं कि वहां पर सारे साक्ष्य, सारी चीज़ें आ रही होंगी और अदालत उस पर निर्णय करेगा।
आज तक आम आदमी पार्टी के किसी भी नेता के पास प्रोसीड्स ऑफ क्राइम का, इस मनी ट्रेल का 1 रुपया भी नहीं मिला। शरद चंद्र रेड्डी ने साफ साफ कह दिया कि मैं कभी अरविंद केजरीवाल से मिला नहीं, मेरी उनसे कोई बात नहीं हुई, मेरा आम आदमी पार्टी से कोई लेन देन नहीं है। जैसे ही उन्होंने कहा कि मैं अरविंद केजरीवाल से मिला नहीं, उनको तुरंत अगले दिन ईडी द्वारा गिरफ्तार कर लिया गया।
दिल्ली के सबसे भ्रष्ट और करप्ट मुख्यमंत्री अरविंद केजरीवाल जी, जो आज हाई कोर्ट में भी राहत लेने के लिए गए थे कि शराब घोटाले में मुझे अरेस्ट ना किया जाए, मानयोग हाई कोर्ट ने भी सारे एविडेंस देखने के बाद उनकी अरेस्ट को स्टे करने से इनकार कर दिया। मतलब कि तुमने गलत काम किया है, तुम्हें जेल तो जाना पड़ेगा। अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को ईडी ने अरेस्ट किया। मैं आज देश के लोगों को, दिल्ली के लोगों को ये बताना चाहता हूं, आज केवल ये अरविंद केजरीवाल जी की गिरफ्तारी नहीं हुई, दिल्ली में भ्रष्टाचार का अंत हुआ है।
कि अगर पैसा पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के पास आ जाए तो वो भी आरोपी बनती है। ये तो भारतीय जनता पार्टी के ही सारे के सारे जो है प्रवक्ता हमें 1 साल से समझा रहे हैं। संबित पात्रा जी, वो जो है भाटिया जी, एडवोकेट साहब, स्मृति ईरानी जी, तो अब आतिशी जी ने बता दिया। 59.5 करोड़ रुपया इन कंपनियों से भारतीय जनता पार्टी को मिला है। स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ने बताया है, इलेक्शन कमीशन की वेबसाइट पे पढ़ा है। कोई